can, come and visit me.
I thought you were gonna go the Diogenes route of when I die, give me a stick and throw me over the city walls.
Is
Why
she
do you need a
gonna-
stick?
No,
Fight up the wall?
no, I want to be there, and I want to have a little line with a bell,
Oh, the ones there, my grandma is on top of my grandpa there. And then they also, at a different area there, they have like their, like the husbands on this side, or whoever was in the military this side, and then the spouses on the other side.
Yeah, I saw that too, yeah. But that's where I'm planning on
It's
being,
beautiful.
and so on. And yeah, Donna can be there too. The only thing is, there's no jokes allowed. All the stones are just like,
Yeah.
whatever, and whoever, and born, died,
Well, you could like,
things that I would love to have on there, like,
You want
this
to love
is
enough
the,
of that?
this is the toughest spot I've ever been in.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be great? I love that,
There was a
W.C. Fields. On the whole, I'd rather be in Philadelphia. Wouldn't that be?
Is that what's going around in Twinsville?
Yeah, what would you have on your
Like a
stone?
senior
you
club.
could have like a father of blah 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 and grand, but you or you can have like a quote, or you can have a bunch of different things on it. I guess look it up if you want.
I'm gonna write, if you feel an earthquake, it's not an earthquake, it's just me getting pissed off at you.
That's a lot.
I'm fine with that.
Right, like he's just gonna.
Have to do it in a certain font, it's gonna be pretty big,
If you feel it.
So, tying them together, William James was, his family was rich, and that's really cool, because the father wanted the best education for his family. They were a pretty large family, I forget how many, 4 or 5 kids, whatever. And so what they did was they moved to Europe, to the schools that were supposed to be the best, and spent like a month or 2 with the kids in that school until the parents decided, that's not really the best. So they moved them to another school and entered them there, and then moved to another. So they kept like hopping around from exclusive private school to private school for the kids. Kind of crazy. But then eventually, William James studied graduate psychology in Germany with Wundt, W-U-N-D-T, Professor Wundt. And his biggest book is where does it say? Say books. Is on psychology.
They have hyperlinks on the side.
Oh, thank you. How come I never noticed that?
They have a section for writings above.
Notable works. The Principles of Psychology. 2 volumes. They're not, of course, current. So the main reason you might have for looking at these would be for their historical value. And this set of texts, by the way, is considered where pragmatism is really well defined. So if you're really curious about the American philosophy, there's probably the text where that would be of interest. And the main thing about William James is, in psychology, is this is when electricity had been discovered and used, and William James used electric shock on his patients and discovered that if you shock them with enough voltage, it changes their personality. Yeah, so wow, that's pretty amazing. And so he was convinced that the mental activity was electrical. Wow. I get the image. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Return to Oz. You've ever seen it, where at the very beginning she's getting electric shock therapy and they have this big machine that's really scary. It becomes metaphorically one of the creatures that she engages in the Oz when she gets there. Right? Yes? No? But, you know, and she's scared to death of getting this electric shock therapy right when the electric storm hits the generator, and so she runs away, and that's how she ends up in Oz again, if you see that one. But it reminds me, you know, the white coats and the big electric generator, and they're getting ready to put wires on this kid, you know, and zap her, you know, that she's being weird. So they figure they'll shoot her up with electricity, and that'll fix her right up. It's not my fault. This is just true. You know? So, yeah, electricity is part of it now. What else is neat, though, about one of his professors was Louis Agassiz, who was originally from Switzerland. Have I mentioned him before? I don't think so. But in any case, Louis Agassiz was a biologist, and there's at least one building in Harvard campus now that's named in his honor, the Agassiz building. And it's a museum of comparative zoology. So you go in and there's, you know, the various skeletons of dinosaurs, bones, and, you know, all that stuff. And he was a very big man, by the way. When he died, as I recall, it took extra men to carry his coffin and so on. Wasn't as bad as Brezhnev. When Leonid Brezhnev died, the cheap Soviet coffin that they made, the bottom fell out. When they were holding the coffin over the grave, the bottom fell out and his body fell down into the hole, and they all just looked at one another and just
Sounds about right.
yeah, Soviets, you know. But so he's fascinating for several reasons. He used to take his students on a trip to the Amazon. And William James went on this trip to the Amazon. By the way, later on, Theodore Roosevelt went on the same trip. Not with him, but that was like the Harvard thing to do when you graduated. You went on a school trip to the Amazon and got sick and died, usually. Because, you know, there are things down there that bite you and stuff. And in fact, both William James got ill and had tremendous problems, almost thought he was going to die for quite a few years because of the illnesses that he got from this Amazon trip. And Theodore Roosevelt had a severe injury while he was on the trip, and that's actually considered to be one of the reasons that it saved his life, because as a result of the damage to his chest that Theodore Roosevelt experienced from that, he launched himself into a lifetime of doing a lot of physical exercise in order to build up his chest muscles. And when he was shot, the bullet pierced his dictionary. Actually, it wasn't a dictionary, it was a Bible. He had a Bible in his pocket, and the shot hit the Bible and then hit his chest. And the doctor, looking at it, said, "That's the strongest chest I've ever seen." And the bullet didn't, really injure him. And everyone said, "Oh, the Bible saved your life." And he says, "A dictionary would have done as well." Theodore Roosevelt, carry a big stick and, speak softly and carry a big stick. Theodore Roosevelt. Rough Riders, Cuba. Afterwards, hunting. He did a hunting trip from the bottom of South Africa all the way to the north, and then ended up in England, where he attended Edward IV's funeral or something, right? As a representative of the United States, because he was an ex-president, etc. But if you go to the Smithsonian Natural Museum, the elephant, the elephant, it looks like a real elephant. It's stuffed in the very middle at the entrance. He shot that. And so, many of the animals that he shot on his safari got sent back and became stuffed animals in the Smithsonian Natural History Museum. So, that's kind of cool too. But Louis Agassiz wanted to go there because he was convinced that if there was an ice age, God would have done it all over the world, not just in northern countries or southern countries or wherever, they were doing different investigations. And he thought he had found ways of proving that there had been glaciers in the Amazon as well. But William James, who was with him, thought, I don't think so. So that's kind of interesting. But Agassiz was against evolution. That was his interesting thing. But when you look at pragmatism, this flourishing, Charles Sanders Peirce, William James, John Dewey, George Herbert Mead was another, as a sociologist, and I mentioned Oliver Wendell Holmes Jr., so there were lots of those. What is the word pragmatism? Literally Greek pragma, which means that which has been done, and it's comparable to the Latin res, which means thing. Kant says it's a relation to some definite human purpose, and Kant actually uses it. One of his first books is A Pragmatic Anthropology. So that's kind of interesting. Kant is there. Peirce says it's how knowledge is related to human action. So it's the semiotic, how knowledge actually is tied into physical action. And he also argues that the foundation is a behavioral semiotic. Yes, Ivan?
Are those two different people because their names are spelled differently?
Did I screw that up? Charles Sanders Peirce? It's easy to misspell it. Nope, they're the same person. I just screwed up. And I can't fix it now, because I have no way of editing these pages anymore. How did I do that? Thanks. You're the first person that mentioned that noticed it. Because no one else ever sees it, I guess. But the second one is the correct one. Peirce. Semiotics is a theory of signs. A word's meaning is its use. And he's primarily interested in meaning, logic, and rhetoric. And the pragmatic maxim, remember, for utility, the utilitarian says the greatest good for the greatest number. The pragmatic maxim is meaning is the connection between action and experience. So we've got Peirce, father was Benjamin, mathematician and astronomer, graduates from Harvard in 1859, Lawrence Scientific School, 1863, summa cum laude. Next 15 years, he's an astronomer, measuring light, physicist for the U.S. Coast and Geodetic Survey, working with his dad, and private philosophical studies. Remember, he's a lecturer at Johns Hopkins, retired to Milford, Pennsylvania, which is on the Delaware Water Gap. Beautiful area, by the way. And Arisby is the place you want to stop at if you're driving that way. And applying the pragmatic maxim to philosophy is the point of pragmatism as a philosophy. And he influenced William James at Harvard and Dewey at Johns Hopkins. So let's move on to William James. One of the things that's really neat, apart from the father being rich and taking them all these different schools, is they were also followers of the new church, which is Swedenborgian, Emanuel Swedenborg. Emanuel Swedenborg had a religious experience and realized that he was Jesus in the second coming. And so he created his own church and wrote the Heavenly Doctrine to reform Christianity. And what's really neat, actually, what's the best way for me to do this? Go here, here. Oh, I want to go to my channel. Bryn. Bryn. There it is. So here is the church in Pennsylvania. Bryn Athyn is the campus. It's Celtic, whatever. Just means the name of the town. Bryn is like a stream. Athyn is the name of the place. They built this during the Depression because the family, this wasn't William James's family, but the people that belong to this church tend to be really, really rich for some reason. And they built this beautiful church. And the neatest thing about it, and I'm pretty sure that this video is what will capture it, is that the altarpiece is built to look like the Ark of the Covenant. Why am I just focused on the... I thought the glasses, like, this is me being...
I think you're going around.
Yeah, I'm going around the church.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I was really impressed because this building is a copy of the Salisbury Stake? No, Salisbury Cathedral.
I was hoping you could say Salisbury Stake.
What do you think they serve at the Salisbury?
They built it stone by stone to be a copy of the one in England. So it's just kind of amazing. Sitting there in this like 15 minutes.